recording.
So we're not going to be able to get anywhere without discussing the pension because the 185 monies are an issue, the contributions an issue. So what we'll talk about wages in just a second. With the pension, it's kind of an alternative offer that they wanted to discuss. One would be we reduce our demand of a 3.3 to a 3 multiplier and 20 and out. And basically that's comparable with every non-FRS pension out there. Port Orange just discussed that. Port Orange just went to the 20 and out too. I don't know of one non-FRS that has it set up this way. So they are pretty adamant about that. The alternative would be a 2-year contract, just lopping the 3rd year off the wages, and again, we'll discuss those again later, but with 185 monies being dished out pursuant to the statute, not the city's alleged frozen amount, the statutory frozen amount, and a 5% contribution. So we want it to be the statutory minimums.
Could you say that again? Say that piece again. So you want 3% multiplied 20 out. You're saying in lieu of that?
An alternative would be a 2-year contract, so we're coming back talking about the pension, well, the entire contract, but especially the pension next year. The 185 monies would be dished out pursuant to state statute, the state statutory frozen amount, which is a 2012 amount, which I believe was 140,000 or something like that. Whatever it is, it's statutory. And then the contribution would be 5%, which is a statutory minimum as well. Which ultimately, as I said before, when you look at it, the city's going to be paying the same price, whether they keep the pension where it is and the guy's contributions go to the statutory minimum versus, and actually it would be cheaper for the city now since they're agreeable to a 3x multiplier instead of 3.3 and 20 now. So it would actually be cheaper for the city to keep the pension and keep the contributions the way they are.
And that would keep you in line with all the other municipalities with the 3%, the 20 and out, and the drop.
Did any of the others do pension reform 10 years ago like we
So
did, and then
your
have they
sister-
gone back?
So your sister city, which is Port Orange, that's Ormond and Port Orange are usually always compared. That's where I retired from, yes. So the same thing that happened here in Ormond happened in Port Orange. So now what you're doing, Port Orange, the city made the offer. They want to bring them back down to the 20 and out with the, regardless of age, and then the drop. That's what the city last offered in the last negotiations with Port Orange.
And they've had the 3x multiplier.
But they continued with the 3% multiplier. They never, it didn't go down to 275.
Right, so they've always been at the 3%. They didn't do reform 10 years ago and drop the pension.
But they did do reform and they dropped a lot of the pension stuff, but they kept the multiplier at 3. Yeah, that's when they switched it to the way the retirement age is here, and they're just going back to 20 and out now. And FRS even just improved theirs too.
Yes.
And, you know, there was a lot of discussion in the other room where you have people that, you know, what we estimated at 12 that are going to say, you know, why keep waiting, and, you know, oh, next year, next contract, next year, next contract. And then you're 15 years into a career that's still at 275. So a lot of the questions that were coming from the bargaining unit is, why am I going to wait here with the anticipation that maybe sometime in the future that it might change. That's that's the mindset. So you have to make a decision as a new officer whether or not you're going to go to one of these agencies, whether it be FRS or one of the ones that have a 20 and out pension before you get too far into your career. So those were some discussions that were had back there. So I just kind of want to bring that to light so that you kind of understand where the officers are coming from as far as looking at the pension. The pensions, if you're looking at it at the police department as a career, the pension is the reward for doing the job for so long, is that 20 and out with the multiplier. And I know that you guys are looking at, the rest of the city, but the rest of the city is, I'm not taking away from the firefighters, but there's a shortage of cops right now, and it's everywhere. So, I think when you're looking at that, you have to look and take that into account. Firefighters don't drive down the street and get spit on or cussed out or filmed, or none of that's happening to them, but it's happening to these guys and gals that are out here putting their lives on the line. There's a huge difference, and I think that the city needs to actually, when you're looking at these 3 different units, that's something that you need to take into effect. What's the job difference here with these folks?
And the other thing that needs to be taken into account is that on a per person basis, the city's paying almost twice. It's, I want to say 75% more per firefighter for their pension than they are for police. If I remember correctly, it was, what was it, 22 or 24 per firefighter and about 14 to 16 per officer. So the city's already paying a lot more per firefighter for their pension. And we're not asking for that much more per officer on this. And like I said, the benefits the city has gotten above these statutory minimums from these officers with both the 185 monies and the contribution pays for more than what they're asking for right now. Because their contribution goes up more by going to the statutory minimums than it does by giving them the benefits.
Well, I'll just make one comment in response to that. We did look at, I think you mentioned those calculations per officer before, and we looked at those, and I think that wasn't quite an accurate comparison based on.
I did it off of your budget.
Yeah, hours worked. There were some other factors
Right.
and components in there that.
Yeah, I think y'all have to, I think what you're saying is accurate, but I don't think it's necessarily the whole story, right? Because we have, our firefighters work a different number of hours per year. So, those things have to be taken into account. As we all know, the pension is the percentage of payroll, right? So the percentage of payroll for police and fire isn't that different. They're both in the 30-35% range. But when you calculate those to actual dollars, they can be different. And as I said, part of the reason for that is they just work more hours, right? They're 29-12. So let me ask just a couple of clarifying questions. The 3% multiplier and 20 and out, that is for those individuals who are currently on the 275, right?
Yes. Correct.
So the people who are on 3.3 would stay on 3.3 is what your proposal is. I just want to be clear on that. And then when are you asking for that to be effective as of? Are you asking for it to be retroactive or prospective?
I would love for it to be retroactive, but I think that would bankrupt the city.
I'm just asking you,
So,
I'm just clarifying what you're asking for.
Yeah, so no, perspective is
Right.
fine. They just want to make sure they got a good pension moving forward and they're comfortable. So yeah.
Just want to be clear on what you're
Yep.
asking.
I think we did discuss that a little bit last
We
negotiation.
did, but, since we're talking about it again, I want to be clear.
Yeah, thank you.
What else? You said you'd comment on wages or any other open issues there?
So with wages, they want the retro, and they like the retro to be the 173 and the dollar, and the 80+4. But otherwise, I mean, they're happy with the wages. That's not the issue.
tried to put the money that we had into the wages to be sure that they were competitive, and I know when you look at competitive, you look at the whole package, pension and everything else that goes into a benefit package, but, you know, we have concentrated on putting, you know, quite a bit of money into the wages, and that's why it's a package, and we certainly couldn't necessarily afford those wages and the cost of changing the pension plan.
And we'd be happy to review a counter that has the pension changes in different wages. As we said from day one, pension is our focus on this contract.
Do you want to take a break?
Not.
I guess we need a break to talk about, think about what you've said there.
Okay.
So if you give us time for that.